Hey everyone, this is Chris Kies for PGer Guitar. Today I'm going to tell you about my top 10 rig rundown and rig rundown moments. Before we go any further, please hit the subscribe button and the bell icon. I guarantee you we will deliver all the gear goodness you can handle right to your inbox. Before we go any further, I should note that both Perry and John Bollinger have their own top 10 rig rundown moment videos floating out there, so check those out as well. Definitely some overlap, definitely some differences. All right. Turning the spotlight on my tenure at PGer Guitar, which is now pushing 13 years, I actually filmed the very first rig rundown. I believe it was in August 2008 with 3 Doors Down at the Minnesota State Fair. I still vividly remember it. This was the first of many times, where we played the hurry up and wait game. I remember with my colleague Brett Petruzik, who is currently still a salesman on our staff, but at that time he was helping us get our video game off the ground. He was hosting that rig rundown. I filmed it, like I said, and we were running through the sea of people to get to the stage, and of course, many times we show up in a frantic rush, only to have to wait 45 minutes to an hour to film. Regardless, we always make the shoots happen, but it's always interesting each and every time. So let's dive into my top 10. All right, number 10, Yvette Young. This was so fun because not only is Yvette like just a phenomenal musician that crafts these extravagant compositions that are rooted through her mind being trained as a pianist, but she applies it to the fretboard, and especially you can see and feel that when she does her tapping stuff. Just a wonderkin of possibilities in what she does with her band Covet. All right, but why it stuck out to me, not only the inspiration she gives everyone and kind of like, you know, what you can do with the guitar, but man, she punked me hard. I won't go into details of what it is. I'm sure if you've seen that one already, you know exact moment I'm talking about. I asked her a tonewood question, and I'll just let you watch that actual rig rundown because she had me in stitches. Number 9, Billy Strings. This is a shout out to Perry because he put Billy on my radar, sending me, you know, as friends do, links or videos and stuff like that. And so Billy was put on my radar, and of course, the moment I saw he was playing a Ryman, we went ahead and set that rig rundown up. I didn't get my eyes fully open to Billy's awesomeness until we were at the rig rundown, and then again later, even more so at the show. But Billy, if you're not familiar, is rooted in traditional bluegrass music, but he really expands upon that with the use of, you know, a tube amp, which isn't unheard of, but his pedal board is bigger than most electric guitar players, and so that's where things get weird and awesome and psychedelic, which I love. And again, at the show, he just really expands upon his compositions and songs. It's awesome to see. And Perry asked a great question about how he sees, you know, has reverence for the traditional music and how he still applies pedals to that formula. So check that one out. You'll be inspired and probably discouraged at the same time by Billy's talent. Number 8, this one was fun simply because my dad took note and thought my job and what I do is cool. AC/DC, man, that is, I knew filming that one when we went down to Atlanta that was going to be a huge one for our audience. I can't say which one probably gets requested the most, but that, before it happened, was one of the most requested ones I saw in the YouTube comments by all y'all. So when I was filming it, I could just feel the anticipation to get it out to the world. And Trace Foster, who's a fantastic tech, he was previously in the Aerosmith rig rundown covering Joe Perry's gear. He was on this one taking care of Angus's equipment, and man, he answered every question I could throw at him and even answer questions I didn't even think to ask him. He went to the nitty-gritty, so check that one out. And again, special thanks to AC/DC Camp and Trace Foster for making that happen. I know a lot of you guys wanted that, and I believe it's, if not the top 3, top 5 rig rundowns we've ever filmed in terms of views. Number 7, The Fall of Troy. This one was fun because it took me back to when I was in high school and early college years listening to music, and Thomas just blew my doors off, much in the way that another guitarist further up on my list blew my doors off years prior. He was great. He answered all my questions as being a dorky fanboy of all the back catalog. But one thing that stuck out is at one point I asked him about a kind of a rare B-side, maybe a song that doesn't hit all their set lists every night, is Mouth Like Sidewinder Missiles. Hard for me to say, probably even harder for him to play. Regardless, I asked him kind of a question about the solo tone and what's going on there. He answers it, but what was cool about it, later in the night in the show when I went there, I have no idea if he even knew I attended, but he gave a shout out and said, hey, this goes out to PGer Guitar, and then that was the last song before they played The last song they played before Chon came out as they opened for them on that tour. Such a cool treat, and again, nothing that probably anyone else realized was happening in that moment at the show, but it was special to me. Number 6, Pelican. If there's any type of post-rock coverage in the magazine or online, it is because of me. I am definitely the Premier Guitar fanboy of post-rock. That being said, this is the only Rig Rundown that I was a part of or filmed or hosted that actually happened after the show. Typically we do that before the show, but this was filmed at this cool restaurant in Louisville, restaurant venue called Zanzibar. It has a pinball area, there is a place for food, and then obviously the venue. And because these businesses were happening during the day, we couldn't really get in and film during sound check or before sound check, so we had to wait after the show. Needless to say, had a few beers, so it was a little more laid back interview. Dallas and Trevor were awesome. They hung around. I think we didn't get out of there till midnight, but we made it happen, and it's a really great Rig Rundown. And Dallas is a gear nerd.
Like to have too much to think about and mess with, so that's why I just went with the one pickup, one knob, real basic. And my buddy.
Number 5, Screaming Females. This was fun because Marissa's not only a fantastic guitar player and songwriter, but man, her delivery to all my questions and just kind of her monologue and talking about her setup was just straight deadpan gold. It was on par with like Steven Wright or Mitch Hedberg. She had me rolling. At one point, she crawled into her cab and just with no emotion said her cabinet smelled like cat piss. I mean, check that one out if you don't like gear but you want laughs.
It was very nice of him.
I dig it.
And there are the speakers. I think a cat peed inside of this.
What gives you that feeling?
I don't know, because, if you get your head in, it's...
God.
Never mind.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, it's got a cat pee smell.
Number 4, Perfect Circle. Now, it should be noted that arena shows can be tricky to kind of pull off. There's a lot that goes on the stage. They have screens a lot of times, things moving, band moves to that one end of the arena, come back. There's a lot that goes on that we don't see before we show up and, enjoy it. So, thankfully, they were more than gracious with their time. I think they provided 2 hours to us. Billy hung out with us for an hour. We had stage access. We got Billy to strap on his busted Les Paul that he repieced together when he was attacked with Trent Reznor. Played all these licks from the first 3 records that just took me back to my bedroom listening to. So it was so awesome that he was not only gracious with his time, dialed up his fractal. We got a direct signal. So really, you couldn't ask for a better tone in terms of what we hear in the Rig Rundown. It's what you hear at the show. So again, they went above and beyond, and it was just a kind of a pinch me moment because I've heard so many of those riffs, Judith, and to have him play them, and you'll see it in the video, man. I have a big smile on my face the whole time. Number 3, Sleep. Hands down the most powerful, loudest setup I've ever heard in person. About 2 or 3 weeks before we filmed this Rig Rundown in Nashville, I went back home to Iowa to catch Sleep and Big Business in this barn outside of Makokata, Iowa called Barnstormers. It's this cool venue that I've seen Dinosaur Jr., Kurt Vile, Dawes, and when I knew that they were playing there, I had to go check it out just to see if the barn could take it. Because if you know anything about Sleep and Big Business, it's about volume and sustain. I can say that the barn is still there, so that's good to say because it's a cool venue. Regardless, moving to the Rig Rundown, it was awesome because Matt really gets deep into his setup and kind of breaks down why he has 9 amps. It literally isn't just about volume and sustain. It is about that. But the amps are EQ'd where they're, each amp does a different thing. So on its own, it sounds weird, but altogether, it is cohesive and large. And then he gets into his pedal board, and that unlocks a whole nother, level of sounds and tones and wrinkles that he brings into sleep, especially in the live format. And it's really cool to see it be more than what you think it is, more than meets the eye. And it's cool because Matt can be written off as kind of a stoner dude or, you know, caveman of sorts. And he actually really is a tone dude, and he's always on the hunt. And I'm sure, as he alluded to in the rig rundown, his setup is completely changed by now, but it's worth checking out. Number 2, Tom Morello. If I had to pick one guitarist that would influence me down this path that got me to Premier Guitar and Rig Rundown, it had to be the Rage Against the Machine guitarist. I remember seeing People of the Sun video on the box and just was like blown away what that was musically. And I remember as the video faded out, they always put the little album icon that the song was from, so I knew that I needed to get this Boy Scout CD. Boy Scout and Blazing CD. I had my mom drive me to the local mall, went to the Sam Goody, went to the R's. Didn't have the Boy Scout CD, but they had the one with the monk on it, and that's the Burning Monk, is a self-titled one, which was their first release. Bought that, quickly fell in love with all the music, even though I didn't know it, and I thought it was the coolest thing that within that little booklet, they had all the sounds that you hear, and something to the effect that all the sounds that you hear on this record are made by bass, drums, and guitars. Awesome. Hooked, right? That was, you know, my life was changed. Fast forward to 2007 when I needed to have a write-in example kind of to prove Premier Guitar for my internship that I, you know, could do what they needed. I provided a write-in example of a review I wrote online for the show I saw, the reunion show of Rage Against the Machine, Alpine Valley, and it had Queens of the Stone Age opening for them. And it was cool that Dave Grohl was actually on drums for that. So it was just awesome all-around show. I still remember to this day. But because of that, I literally would not be here in front of you guys, talking guitar, talking music. So all that to say, check out that Rig Rundown. He's still using the gear and the setup and the guitars that he used at the 2000 show, at the 92, you know, recording of Evil Empire. So, you know, all the things that we do to try to chase tone, Tom Morello is as pragmatic as they come, considering his setup has not changed in 30 plus years. Number 1, Brian May of Queen. Now, this one is our most watched Rig Rundown, our most watched video, and much like the AC/DC one, while I was filming it and Jason Shadrick hosted it, I knew that this is something our audience was craving and requested for years. So I was just giddy the fact that it was happening and hoping the footage would not be ruined. Obviously it's not, because it exists, and I'm talking about it now. In a lot of instances where we have the artist, you know, that actually is going to appear on camera, depending on how much time they have and how, you know, big of a deal they are, we get limited exposure to them and then time, which is great. You know, I understand that. But a lot of times we'll be told 10 to 15 minutes, get what you can get done, and, you know, boom, you're done. Deadline. A lot of times, though, these artists want to hang out and talk gear so bad that that exceeds way beyond what we're told. And in the case of Brian May, it was like that. I think he, you know, talked with us on camera 30 to 40 minutes. And after we wrapped up and we were putting all our gear away, he still talked for another 15 minutes about the cosmos. And if you don't know, he's an astrophysicist. And near and dear to my heart is dog rescues and welfare of animals. And him and his wife are big in that arena. So we talked about that. You know, I showed him pictures of my dog. He showed me pictures of his dog. It was the coolest thing. And then I realized I'm talking dogs and stars with one of the, you know, biggest guitar heroes of the 20th century. And it was just the coolest thing. So, you know, you don't get any of that in the Rig Rundown, but it was one of those moments where I just was struck not only how awesome of a musician this guy is, but what great of a person he was. And it was, I will never forget that. And it was just so cool, man. Just so cool. You know, I thank Brian for that experience. I thank Queen management. I thank everyone that's ever done a Rig Run and agreed to do it. I thank you all, just like I'm thanking you guys for watching. Because without you, we wouldn't have myself, you know, have this job. We wouldn't have this YouTube channel. So thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. And, you know, hopefully we can keep these Rig Rundowns going 2021 and beyond. So thank you again. And from myself and Premier Guitar, keep rocking and rolling. Stay safe out there.